Are you seeking fulfillment for your life? Do you want freedom from fear? That's why we're here. Welcome to Jesus 101, introducing you to the real Jesus. And now, here's your host, Elizabeth Talbot.
Welcome to Jesus 101. Thank you so much for joining us. We are continuing our I think it's awesome, series of discipleship. And the reason why it's awesome is not because we are doing it, but because we're analyzing each disciple and seeing how flawed they were and how flawed we are and how the real disciple is an ordinary person who has accepted extraordinary grace. And today's topic, is Philip. We're talking about Philip. And the title is Extraordinary Calling, and it's a topic that touches me very closely because Philip was a little OCD, and I definitely qualify there. Sometimes I can get obsessive compulsive with numbers and with what if something doesn't go right, and a little pragmatic and over analytical and all those things that Philip was. So when I studied this topic, I felt that the topic was for me. And I'm glad you joined us. Maybe you will find that it's also for you. But before we go into our biblical teaching today, I want to tell you a story. And the story is about a miracle that happened to my family. And it's probably I'm sure there's miracles every day in my life. And I know it because I know them, and I don't have time to tell you all the miracles. But this is one of those miracles that we will remember forever as a family. I was a baby when it happened, and my parents told me about it so many times, and I wrote about it in my books, and et cetera, et cetera. And I want to show you a picture before I tell you the story. When I was a little baby, like 6 months old, my parents had a BMW. Well, before you get very excited about the BMW, let me tell you that this was a BMW that is the smallest car that has ever been made. It wasn't an expensive car. It was the closest you could do to a motorcycle with a roof. Okay, so I decided to go to the internet this morning at 4 o'clock in the morning and pull those cars that were for sale from the year. This was 1957 model. I was born in 1962. This model that I'm going to show you is the Ep8 BMW, and this is what the car looks like. So before you start laughing, I want to tell you what it's all about. Even though it has 4 wheels, it looks like it actually has 3 because there's 2 wheels in the back together and then 2 that are separated in the front. It has 1 door, and the 1 door is on the front. And it fits 2 people, and which was a problem because I was born and we were 3. And so in the back where you put the, this is exactly what the car looked like because it's from that year. In the back you would put the purses there or whatever. Well, that was my place, So they put some blankets and whatever, and the baby, me, was there. And so they were very happy, my parents, even though they didn't have any money. They felt like millionaires because they had a motorcycle all this time and they couldn't go out when it rained. Now they could. Well, this car had 1 cylinder. And one time my father had to go on a trip, and he took my mom and me as a baby to this trip in a very desolate place. And when we were in the middle of a dark place in the mountains, the car stopped, and the sun was about to go down, and there was not enough milk for me, and this was a desolate road. Nobody was going to come by in, who knows, 3-4 days maybe. So my dad goes with a little flashlight to see what's wrong with the car. The car stopped in the middle of nowhere in the darkness, right? So he comes back with this distressed look on his face, and my mother tells the story so well because obviously, I don't remember his face. And he had the piece of the outer part that had broken in his hand. The one cylinder the car had was broken in two and could no longer, those of you that know mechanics, you know that it couldn't create what it needed for the whole car to continue running. And my dad still, until today, gets tears in his eyes when he says what it feels like to pray that God would do something that he knows is impossible, because he's holding the part in his hand and he needs to save his family from who knows what that could happen, for who knows how many days we could be there. And he's going to turn the key knowing that it's mechanically impossible for the car to start. And they prayed, my father and my mother prayed, that if it was his will, God's will, he would do a miracle, and that the car would start even though the part was in my father's hand, and that he would save our lives. And he cries, my dad cries, when he says he turned the key and the car started. And we went 30 miles in this desolate road until the main road, and then the car stopped again. And we were able to take a bus home, and the next day my dad went with the actual part, fixed the car, and went to pick it up. In the kingdom of God, things happen that you cannot logically explain, because spiritual things are spiritually discerned. And if you have become cynical or overanalyzing everything in the kingdom of God, and when you say, how is the gospel going to go to the world? We're never going to get there. There's more people being born every day. How are we going to? God says, look, you're entering a different realm when you enter the spiritual realm. You cannot bring your calculator around. You cannot bring your mechanic around, or you cannot bring your doctor around all the time, because there's things that are going to happen that are not going to make sense because you are entering the spiritual world. And the reason why this is so important for me is because I'm a very left-brained person. And perhaps one of the hardest things that God had to teach me as a minister, and then when I got into media, was to trust that he would do a lot of things that they were actually impossible. Not just my salvation, because it's impossible for people to save themselves, but that day to day, I would need every once in a while to trust a God that does things in a way that I cannot fully understand. And I'm so thankful that we have Pastor Mike Tucker with us. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing great, and you?
I am doing very good, and thank you so much for joining us.
Honored
and
to
don't
be
make
here.
any comments about me being OCD.
I promise I will do my best to behave myself. But you know how difficult that will be for me.
Yes, because you already know all the things about me that nobody else knows, because we've been working in media together for a long time. And the truth is, some of us had the tendencies, like the disciple Philip,
Yes.
to overanalyze everything, to say, well, we don't know where we're going. Please give us a map. Let's count. And, the hardest thing, I was a very hard nut to crack for God.
Oh, really? I did promise, didn't I? All right, I'll work on it. Go ahead.
I was a hard nut to crack for God because I'm so left-brained. So every time we're going to do an evangelistic series or something, I like to plan, but I'm over-analytical. And he had to teach me that every once in a while, I just have to let go. And what have you found out?
Being OCD is a legalist dream, because you get to measure everything, you get to calculate everything,
Yeah,
you
you
get
have
to
a
plan
list.
everything, you get the list, you check off
Exactly.
the list. The problem is that eventually even the OCD person finds out that is an empty list, and there's no end to the list, and you never are good enough to be saved.
Exactly.
And so it's a no-win proposition for OCD or anybody else. You can't get there from there.
Yes. I never had to be medicated for it, which is a great thing.
Yeah, but I'm thankful that there are medications that people can use in order to help people with that
exactly.
issue.
And I never had to be medicated, but I was one of those people that would check the doors many times and check the stove and make sure that it.
Right.
But I didn't realize that had made me a person that, I was a pastor for many, many years in the church. And when I started, the fact that there were so many things out of my control would actually create a problem.
Oh, yeah.
In my mind. And I used to do this prayer. I know it sounds silly, but I had to do it to remember. I would hold something in my hand and pray and say, okay, tonight's service, Lord, I release it to you. And I would open my hands and let that thing go, whether it was a stone or whatever, and say, I know that I can't count everything, that not all the technology is going to work all the time, that I can't enter into the spiritual realm with the values of a non-spiritual world, because God is a miraculous God. And Philip had a hard time with this. He had an extraordinary calling because he could no longer use his calculator to say, okay, how many disciples? 5,000? Okay, let's see what we're going to do about that.
Yeah, and again, I think there are areas in all of our lives where we tend to be OCD. You may not be generally
I know
as a
some
person.
Of yours.
Yeah, and I have some of those as well. So I'm not going to teach you too hard about being OCD.
Thank you. Okay,
but very often it has to do with career issues and ministry issues.
Exactly.
That there's certain areas that I really feel like I have to control. But I've come to the conclusion that control is overrated. And really, what is it in my life that I really truly control?
Exactly, nothing.
Yeah, I really don't.
Just your desire to be close to God.
That's about it.
And not even that, because it says that even the faith
that we have, that comes from Him as well, does it not?
Yeah, exactly.
And so, you think you control your career, you don't.
Yeah.
You think you control your 501k, 401k. See, I even called it the wrong number. The 401k, I don't control much, do I? I don't even know I have
you
one.
You don't control your 501k?
That's the problem with my investments. It's a 501k instead of a 401k. That's why they're doing so poorly.
Yeah, that's what it is. Let's call a financial advisor for Mike, please.
Yeah, so obviously I don't control much. But the truth is, you can take care of your health and the doctor can still say cancer. You can take care of certain things and still a bus hits you.
Exactly.
Here's what you control. You can control your decision to surrender it all to Jesus.
That's all.
You're going to give it to Him.
Let go and let God.
You take care of this. You take care of this because I can't get there.
Well, we're going to talk about Philip, and we're already talking about Philip. Philip it's actually a Greek name.
Yeah.
And later on we have a deacon, one of the 7 deacons, who also will have the same name, Philip. So some people get confused between the disciple Philip and the deacon Philip. But we don't know his actual Jewish name.
No, we don't.
We're never told what it is. And he was from the same town as Andrew and Peter, Bethsaida. And he's usually paired with Nathaniel when we are, Philip is the one that goes to talk to Nathaniel that we have already done to say, hey, we found the Messiah. But his main struggle, and this is the way we're going to put it, because maybe you're struggling with something like this, is that his main struggle is that he's focused always on obstacles. And he's pragmatic and over-analytical, and that takes him to be cynical at times. And I have met a lot of people, even in my place of work, that after years and years of working on religious things, they just became cynical.
Yeah.
Because they are tired of certain type of religion that is always with lists and whatever, and they just had it.
Yeah. Looking at the obstacles will always destroy you, because there are always going to be obstacles. Now, I've seen some people that are so positive in their attitude that they don't know that obstacles actually exist.
Yeah, but those are in a river of Egypt called denial.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And so it's important that they have some realists, maybe some Phillips around at times to help point out, but we need to watch out for this little pitfall over here. And so together, if they can learn to work together, they can make a better team. My wife is better at spotting the obstacles than I am in most cases.
Yeah, but she has the solutions.
Yeah, she has solutions as well. She doesn't just let it get so big that she can't handle it.
That's the problem that Philip had.
Yeah.
I believe in excellence. There's a big difference between perfection and excellence. For a while I thought if I could check enough times the mic to make sure they will work, will always work. We were together on live TV one time.
When my mic just died. Just absolutely
died.
I'm
never going to forget it. And
I was standing out there all by myself. The guy who was supposed to be backstage helping me had to go check on another piece of equipment.
Yes, and the other mic you were supposed to have close by just in case it wasn't there.
It wasn't there, but I found
for a moment, we were live TV.
My lips were moving and nothing was coming through. But I found a mic that a musician had left on the piano, grabbed it, and was able to go. It seemed like an eternity. It was probably 10 seconds.
Yes,
but still.
Exactly. But see, that's the thing. We try to be excellent. We try to rehearse things, whatever. But the bottom line is we are in a fallen world. Things happen.
Yeah.
And you got to get over with your life. You can't just stay there saying, okay, this wasn't exactly...
Yeah.
And that's why I said I was a hard nut to crack for God, because I was one of those people that
Wanted it just exactly so.
Exactly.
Just
And
exactly
so I had to get old to relax.
Yeah, well.
That was your moment to say that I'm not that old.
I'm not going there. I'm 10 years older than you, so the age strokes really don't help much.
Everybody know
don't help
because
much, yeah.
I'm never going to be as old as Mike.
Until
never.
I die first, and then eventually you outlive me
never
probably.
catch up.
Oh,
No.
well.
Well, let's actually go and talk a little bit more about Philip. He had this extraordinary calling that we have already discussed in chapter 1 of John, and Jesus found him on verse 43 and actually invited him.
Yeah.
Would you want to read it?
Anyways, the next day he purposed to go into Galilee, and he found Philip, and Jesus said to him, "Follow me."
And Philip was from Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter. And what did Philip do immediately?
Philip found Nathanael and said to him, "We have found him of whom Moses in the law, also the prophets wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph."
Well, eventually you know that Nathanael will say, "Can anything good come from Nazareth?"
Yeah.
And look at Philip's answer. You can see his personality just by the answer.
Yeah.
Come
and see.
See.
Come see for yourself.
Yeah, but see, Philip was a person that was always come and see.
Yeah.
And that is a wonderful thing when you say come and experience, come and whatever. But if you're always going to be trusting, okay, I'm going to show you. The problem is with Christianity is that Jesus is not here.
Yeah.
You know, if my message to you is, I'm going to prove to you that Jesus exists.
You're in trouble.
You're in trouble because he's not here.
Yeah.
You know?
In the United States, we would say that Philip was from Missouri, the show me state.
Oh, really?
Show me.
Show me the money.
Show me. And so in that respect, he was from there, but he also expected that everybody else would be from there. And so he said, "Come on, I'll prove it to you."
Yeah, I'll prove it to you. And as a matter of fact, we have several instances in which when he would wait and see, and even when the Greeks came, and we don't have time to go through all of it, but in John chapter 12, if you want to read it, verses 20 and 21, when some Greeks come to see Jesus, and they go to Philip because Philip has a Greek name, and they're like, "We want to see Jesus." Well, he's not sure what to do with these foreigners, you know, and with these people that are, so he takes them to Andrew, because Andrew was the one-to-one person.
Yeah.
And then Philip and Andrew come to Jesus.
Yeah.
You know, Philip was the person that wanted to make sure, okay.
Yeah, get things in line first. He was cautious, over analytical.
Yes.
And not wanting to move until he knew all the ducks were in a row.
Exactly.
You know, wanted everything lined
up.
up.
The ducks in a row in Argentina, we have the same saying, but they are cockroaches in a row.
Cockroaches. That's good. I like ducks better, but that's just me.
I'm
not from Argentina, so what can I say?
You're from Texas, which is a lot.
Yeah.
Okay,
well,
fine.
Never mind.
All right. So how does Jesus teach a pragmatic disciple to just trust the miraculous? That you might be in a trip like we were, with the part of the car broken in your hand, and God will decide to do a miracle, something that cannot be logically explained.
Right.
You know, a lot of people that are not Christians are not because they cannot explain the miracles.
Yeah.
And you can't explain them.
No, you cannot explain miracles. And you can't prove the existence of God. You cannot absolutely prove that the Bible is 100% true. You can't do any of those things.
Yeah, but see, some people that may be listening to us right now say, "What?"
Yeah.
But that's the very truth. See, I remember being like, baffled when somebody said...
Baffled.
What's the word?
Baffled. But I like buffled. It's better.
Okay, how you say
I'm
it?
going
You're
to start
here to
saying
help me with
buffled
my
instead of baffled. I'm sorry.
Okay, is it baffled?
Baffled, yeah.
Baffled.
Yeah, or buffaloed, but either way. But go ahead. You were baffled. Who and what?
Thank you. See, if I didn't have Mike in my life, I wouldn't have learned the English language.
That's right.
Okay.
I have helped you so much.
That's right. You did.
You're just lucky you don't speak Texan. Go ahead.
So, baffled. Is that better?
Baffled.
Okay.
Yes.
And now I don't remember what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Well, somebody told me there's always going to be room for faith.
Absolutely.
See, I wanted, and I remember because I was going through hard times, and I have shared that in another program, and I wanted 100% proof of something. And this pastor, who was also a therapist and a counselor, he says, "Did you know that God will always leave a little room for faith?"
Yeah, sometimes a lot of room, but still he leaves
Sometimes it's 60-40, sometimes it's 70-30, sometimes it's 90-10. But at some point you will have to trust something you cannot see.
You cannot see.
And we're going to go to this miracle. I call it Math 101 in the kingdom of God, because John 6 is a miracle we have already discussed, but we haven't discussed Philip in it. This is the only miracle that we have in all 4 Gospels, the same miracle. This is actually the only one common to the synoptics that we call it, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and also John. And is the multiplying of the bread and the 5,000 who are being fed. But look how Philip responds to the need. And it's funny because Jesus already knows who Philip is.
Yeah.
So he's talking to Philip.
It is interesting that he directs the question to Philip. You find that in verse 5. It says, therefore Jesus, lifting up his eyes and seeing that a large crowd was coming to him, said to Philip.
See, isn't it great that God knows exactly who we are and the lesson we need to learn, and kind of targets the question to Philip?
He's going right to Philip, who needed to know this. This would not have been an important question for Peter.
Exactly.
It would not have been as important a question for James or John. But
Yes,
Philip,
or Andrew, who brought the kid.
Because Andrew was ready for this. He had an answer already.
Yeah.
But for Philip, where are we to buy bread so that these may eat?
I love it. I absolutely love it.
And this he was saying to test him, for he himself knew what he was intending to do.
So we're told here it was a test for Philip.
Yeah, a test.
Okay. And Philip acted exactly like Jesus thought
He
was
knew
going
he
to
was
act.
going to do this. Yeah, this is not a surprise to Jesus because Philip was Philip.
So Philip said, okay, move. Here's my calculator.
Yeah.
I don't know where they plugged the calculator in the desert.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
And that's
maybe,
a problem.
Maybe he had
He had an abacus. That's what he had. An
had a what?
abacus. You don't use the electricity.
Is it a
with that.
solar system?
No. Never mind. Go ahead.
It's a different generation. Where are you from? Texas? So anyways, he brought the calculator. He brought the money. He brought the bread.
Yes.
And this is Philip.
Yes.
And he says here, look at it. Philip answered by saying, okay, we have 200 denarii. Anybody, can you reach in your pockets? How much money do you have?
None, because this is wardrobe. I left this wallet in
why
another
you
pants.
There you go. You have no money. So here Philip goes, 200 denarii. Worth of bread. So if I took all the bakeries in this town and somehow was able to come up with 200 denarii, so let me think, 2,000, 5,000.
Yeah.
No way.
No way. You can't do this.
So at one point, Philip has to stop this.
Yeah.
And I have seen pastors do this. It's like, okay, 20 baptisms I need to have by the end of the year, and so much tithe I have, and so many people, and then it's, the percentage is not adding up.
Yeah. What am I going to do?
What am I going to do?
Yeah.
And this is the lesson that Jesus is trying to teach Philip and all of his disciples and Elizabeth. Verse 7, Philip answered to him, 200 denarii worth of bread is not sufficient for them, for everyone to receive a little. And God looks at him, Jesus in the flesh, God in the flesh, says, exactly.
Hello? Yeah.
Yeah. See, why is it so hard for us to understand that we can't?
I don't know. But, Philip there became Captain Obvious. He spoke the obvious truth, that everyone already knew.
Yes.
And Jesus is saying, all right, now that we know the obvious, now that you understand the immensity of this problem,
yes,
there's only one way to solve this, and this is through spiritual warfare. This is a supernatural problem. So get a load of this. Watch what I'm going to do.
Yes.
And this is going to be a lesson for you, Mr. OCD.
Yes.
Mr. Control.
Yes.
That you are not controlling
anything.
You're going to trust and watch what happens when you do.
Yes, you're going to see how we're going to turn the key to the car that is missing the part, and it's going to start working.
And we're going to go 30 miles.
Yes, and see, for me, I made a deal when I came to ministry with God. I said, I know who I am. I was an accountant for many years and a company controller, multi-million-dollar corporations. I know I am a calculator person. When I was called into the ministry, I said to God, I'm getting into another realm. Spiritual warfare, spiritual things, miracles will happen, and they will have nothing to do with me because I don't have that power. So I'm going to surrender that side of me in the sense of the kingdom of God doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't.
I'm going to put the best I can. I'm going to study. I'm going to this. But actually, the miracles are going to come from another place because I don't have that power.
If your accountant's OCD, that's okay because he's going to keep good numbers for you, all right? I mean, it's not good for him. But when it comes to the spiritual realm, you got to leave that behind.
And it's hard.
You've got to leave it behind.
And why it's so important for me, and I have it really big here in my notes, is that at some point you have to come to say, I can't, because salvation works that way.
Yeah.
You know, the angel comes to Mary and says, you're going to be pregnant of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, really? Seriously? The old pregnant virgin routine, right?
Who's going to believe that?
Yeah, no one does.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Sarah, okay, I like.
You're 100 years old, you're 90 years old, you're going to have a baby.
90 years old,
Yeah.
What?
Seriously?
Right.
Yeah.
See, so
she laughed.
I like how Beth Moore says that Sarah became the first woman to pay the pediatrician with the Social Security.
Yeah, that's right. I like it.
I love that.
Like it, yeah.
Well, see, at some point you come to believe it's impossible. At one point, even Jesus tells his disciples, it's impossible to be saved.
Yes. And truly, with the calculator, it's true. It's impossible.
And this is the problem with discipleship that has calculators. It's like, you know, sometimes with, you know, the batch, you know, the Boy Scouts or Pathfinders or...
With all the
we
merit
teach
badges,
the kids that, okay, how many do you have?
Yeah.
Okay, you can go on the trip.
Yeah.
Right? So some people have thought that this is the way you get to heaven. What did you do this week?
Yeah.
How many did you help? How many, you know?
Mark Twain said, if heaven went by merit, your dog would get in and you would be left out.
You know, I believe it because the animals are so patient sometimes with us, right?
My dog would more likely get into heaven because of his good works than would I.
Yeah. And so it is a hard lesson to learn, and I am sure some people here that have tried really hard to be very good people are saying, you mean my badge doesn't...
Yeah, it doesn't really help. And all the awards and the honors you've won is not going to help.
No. You know, why do we live for the glory of God? Why is to give him glory and to bring people to his kingdom. Not 1 ounce
goes to me.
Goes to me or to merit my salvation.
That's right.
Which is a hard lesson sometimes for some people to learn.
The reason we do those things is because he's already given us salvation and we just love him so much. We can't do anything else.
We stop counting.
Stop counting. Just start loving.
We stop counting. See, these glasses, I like these glasses, and I stuck crosses.
I noticed, yeah, that's good. You wear those to drive in?
Would you want to put them on?
I could drive with these, I think, going home. What do you think?
I think you should do that.
Works? Good.
But you know, this represents spiritual discernment.
Yeah.
And Jesus said to Philip, look, you want to feed all these people? You can't. I have news for you.
Right.
You can't. Put the glasses of faith on, and that's the only way that is going to happen. And, you know, when you go to the cross, you realize that your salvation works exactly the same way. It's not just daily life. It's not just when you need to multiply bread or when you need to call people or when God is going to do miracles in your life. It actually is the basic principle of salvation, is that I'm not going to get the calculator to say, okay, I'm going to do a balancing act. I do some good things, some bad things, and maybe No. Jesus says, look, put your glasses on, and you're going to learn one thing. And this is what you're going to learn. That spiritual things are spiritually discerned. And I'm with Martin Luther, the great reformer, who said, when I look at myself and I start counting, I say, how could I be ever saved? I can't be saved. But when I look at Jesus, I don't know how I could ever be lost. See, spiritual things are spiritually discerned. And the ordinary people that accept extraordinary grace, at some point say, I can't. He can. I'll let him.